The auditorium erupted in applause as my name echoed through the speakers. Jennifer Marie Hutchinson, Doctor of Medicine, magna cum laude. I stepped across the stage, diploma trembling slightly in my hands, and instinctively looked toward the family section. Row after row of beaming parents, grandparents clutching tissues, siblings holding congratulatory signs. Then my eyes found the 3 empty seats I'd reserved months ago. Reserved and paid for. Reserved and confirmed. Reserved and abandoned. The photographer gestured for me to smile. I did, muscle memory from years of pretending everything was fine. The camera flashed, capturing what should have been the proudest moment of my life, but all I could see was that glaring emptiness where my parents should have been cheering. "Jennifer!" Betty Gonzalez practically tackled me as I descended the stage steps. Her entire extended family swarmed around us, a blur of flowers, cameras, and tears of joy. Her grandmother pressed a $20 bill into my hand. "For your celebration dinner, Mija, we're so proud of both our doctors." Betty's eyes sparkled as she scanned the crowd behind me. "Where's your family? I can't wait to meet them after hearing so much about your mom and dad." The lie came easier than breathing. "Oh, they're just finding parking. You know how crazy it gets on graduation day. Tell them to hurry. The reception's starting soon." Betty's mom wrapped me in a hug that smelled like vanilla and pride. "Your parents must be bursting with joy. A doctor in the family." I nodded, throat tight. Watching Betty's little cousins wave miniature flags with her name on them. Someone had made a banner. "Dr. Betty, our family's first doctor." The love was so thick you could taste it, sweet and suffocating when you had none of your own. As the crowd thinned, I lingered by the fountain in the courtyard, scrolling through my phone just to look busy. Congratulations poured in from classmates, professors, even my high school biology teacher. Everyone except the 2 people whose approval I'd spent 25 years chasing. This wasn't new. The empty seats, the broken promises, the casual dismissal of my achievements. When I graduated valedictorian from high school, my parents were 3 hours away watching my younger brother Sam play in a regional baseball tournament. He struck out twice and they still cheered louder than they ever had for me. "Emergency," my mom had texted that day. "Sam's coach says college scouts might be watching. You understand, honey? We'll celebrate your graduation next weekend." Next weekend never came. There was always something more important, someone more deserving of their attention. I walked to my car as the sun began to set, painting the campus in golden light that should have felt magical. Other families posed for photos by the medical school sign. Fathers lifted their new doctors onto their shoulders. Mothers cried happy tears into bouquets of roses. I sat in my Honda Civic, engine off, watching it all through the windshield like a movie I wasn't invited to join. My phone buzzed constantly. Congratulations from my study group, my research advisor, even my landlord who'd seen the graduation announcement I'd posted on the building's bulletin board, but nothing from the people who'd raised me, nothing from the people who should have been proudest, nothing from the people whose love I'd been trying to earn with every perfect grade, every scholarship, every sleepless night studying while working 3 jobs to pay for school. As I finally started the engine, one thought crystallized with terrifying clarity. If they couldn't show up for this, they never would. And somehow that realization felt less like an ending and more like a beginning. The drive home was quiet except for the steady buzz of my phone. Messages of celebration from everyone who mattered, and silence from the 2 people who should have mattered most. I had no idea that in 48 hours, that silence would shatter into something far worse than neglect. If this story hits different because you've been the forgotten child too, smash that like button and subscribe. Because what happens next changed everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and the price of finally saying no. The pattern started innocently enough. I was 16, working my first job at a local coffee shop when my mom Loretta called with tears in her voice. "Jennifer, honey, Sam needs new baseball cleats for regionals, $200. I know it's a lot, but you're so responsible with money." I handed over my entire paycheck without hesitation. The pride in her voice when she said responsible felt like sunlight after years of being invisible. I didn't know then that I'd just purchased my first hit of conditional love, and like any addiction, the price would only go up. By senior year of high school, I was juggling 3 jobs: morning shifts at the coffee shop, afternoons tutoring elementary kids, weekends at a retail store. My guidance counselor called me into her office, concerned about my exhaustion. "Jennifer, you're valedictorian with a full ride to pre-med. Why are you working yourself to death?" I couldn't explain that every paycheck disappeared into my family's endless emergencies. Sam's tournament fees, car repairs that always seemed to happen right before his games, just this once, requests that arrived like clockwork every month. $800 for transmission work, $300 for Sam's prom tuxedo, $500 for his senior trip. "You're so successful now, honey," became my mother's favorite greeting, always followed by a financial request. Success, I learned, wasn't measured by my achievements, but by my ability to fund everyone else's dreams. The golden child dynamic crystallized during my sophomore year of college. I'd made Dean's List again, maintaining a 4.0 GPA while working in the campus lab and tutoring struggling students for extra cash. The recognition ceremony was on a Thursday evening. I sent my parents the invitation weeks in advance. That same Thursday, Sam's Recreational Softball League held their participation trophy ceremony. Not championships, not playoffs, a participation trophy for showing up to practice most of the time. My phone buzzed during the Dean's List reception as I stood alone among families celebrating their honor students. A photo from my mom, Sam grinning with his plastic trophy, my parents beaming on either side of him. The caption read, "So proud of our champion." I stared at that photo while the dean announced my name for the 3rd consecutive semester. No one clapped for me. No one took pictures. No one was proud of their champion. The financial requests escalated through medical school. Emergency car repairs became monthly occurrences, always coinciding with Sam's needs. His apartment deposit, his spring break trip, his new laptop for the community college classes he'd eventually drop. I lived on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches, sending my grocery money home while Sam posted Instagram stories from expensive restaurants. I wore the same 3 outfits to clinical rotations while he modeled new designer sneakers my money had bought. "Family helps family, Jennifer. Don't be selfish," my mother would say whenever I hesitated. Selfish. The word that could make me open my wallet faster than any emergency could. My bank statements told the real story. 4 years of medical school, $15,700 in transfers labeled family support. $15,000 that could have paid off my student loans, secured a better apartment, or simply given me the financial breathing room every other student seemed to have. But the most devastating realization came during my surgery rotation. I was reviewing my finances, calculating how much I'd need for residency applications, when the numbers finally clicked into focus. I hadn't just been funding Sam's lifestyle. I'd been subsidizing my parents' ability to treat him like the golden child, while treating me like a personal ATM. Every dollar I'd sent home had freed up money for Sam's wants, while my needs went unmet. Every emergency had been carefully timed to coincide with my paychecks. Every guilt trip about family loyalty had been a manipulation designed to keep the money flowing. I closed my laptop and sat in the silence of my tiny studio apartment, surrounded by medical textbooks I'd bought used and furniture I'd found on the street. For the first time in 9 years, I asked myself a question that should have been obvious. What if I just stopped? The thought terrified me, not because of the money, but because I finally understood what I'd been buying all along. Not love, not pride, not family unity. I'd been purchasing the illusion that I mattered to them, one emergency at a time. And now, staring at my graduation cap hanging on the door, I realized the payments had stopped working. They'd taken my money for years, but they couldn't even show up when it mattered most. The next text from my mother would change everything. But first, I had to decide what my dignity was worth. 48 hours after graduation, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. I was sitting at my kitchen table, still wearing my pajamas at 2 in the afternoon, staring at my diploma propped against a coffee mug. The anticlimactic silence of my achievement hung heavy in the air. The message was pure Loretta. Need $2,100 for Sam's security deposit plus first month rent. Urgent. His lease starts Monday. I read it 3 times, each word hitting like a physical blow. No congratulations, no how was graduation, no acknowledgement that I'd just completed 8 years of higher education. Just another demand, another emergency, another expectation that I'd empty my account for Sam's convenience. My graduation cap hung on the door hook behind me, taunting me with its silence. I'd worked 3 jobs through medical school, lived on instant noodles and hope, sacrificed everything for this moment. And their response was to ask for rent money. Something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like ice under pressure, creating fissures that would soon become chasms. I opened my banking app with trembling fingers. My checking account showed $3,200. Money I'd saved for residency applications, interview travel, the security deposit on a better apartment near the hospital. Money that represented months of 12-hour shifts and skipped meals. For 9 years, I'd been their personal ATM. For 9 years, I'd believed that if I just gave enough, achieved enough, sacrificed enough, they'd finally see me, love me, choose me. But they'd missed my graduation for nothing, not even Sam's game or tournament. They'd simply chosen not to come. I typed $21 into the transfer amount. $21. One for each year they'd made me feel invisible, worthless, like my only value was my ability to fund their golden child's dreams. In the memo line, I wrote, "Congratulations on my graduation." My finger hovered over the send button for a full minute. This wasn't just about money. This was about drawing a line in the sand after years of letting them walk all over me. This was about finally asking myself what I was worth. I hit send. Then I blocked both my parents' numbers. The silence that followed was deafening. No angry calls, no guilt-laden voicemails, no frantic texts asking if I'd made a mistake. Just silence. And in that silence, I realized something profound. They'd never actually needed the money. They'd needed my compliance. Within an hour, I was at Home Depot buying new locks. The locksmith, an older man named Jeffrey Milne, arrived that evening with a toolbox and a kind smile. "Changing locks after a breakup?" he asked, not unkindly. "Something like that," I said, watching him work. Each turn of his screwdriver felt like another layer of protection, another boundary I should have built years ago. When he finished, I stood in my doorway testing the new key. It turned smoothly, clicking into place with a satisfying finality. For the first time in my adult life, I controlled who could enter my space. The next morning, I opened a new bank account at a different branch across town, an account my parents had never seen, never accessed, never even knew existed. I transferred my remaining money and closed the old account they'd been monitoring for years. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No anxiety about unexpected requests, no guilt about money sitting in my account while Sam needed something, just peace. I thought the silence meant I'd finally found my backbone. I thought it meant they'd gotten the message and would leave me alone to build my own life. Drop a lock emoji in the comments if you've ever had to lock toxic family out of your life. I had no idea that silence was just them regrouping. I thought the silence meant peace. I had no idea it meant war was coming. 3 days of blissful silence shattered at 7 a.m. with aggressive knocking on my door. I stumbled out of bed, still in scrubs from my hospital volunteer shift, and peered through the peephole. 2 police officers stood in the hallway, their expressions serious but not hostile. My heart hammered as I opened the door, chain still attached. "Can I help you?" The taller officer, a black man in his 30s, showed his badge. Officer James Adams, Denver PD. Are you Jennifer Hutchinson? Yes. We received a wellness check request from your mother, Loretta Hutchinson. She says you've been acting erratically since graduation, not answering calls, and she's concerned you might harm yourself. The words hit like ice water. I stared at him, processing the calculated cruelty of what my mother had done. She'd weaponized the police, turned my boundary setting into a mental health crisis, painted me as unstable because I'd finally said no. Officer, does this apartment look like someone unstable lives here? I gestured around my spotless living space, medical textbooks organized on shelves, my diploma hanging straight on the wall, not a dish out of place. Adams glanced past me, taking in the scene. His partner, a younger woman, made notes on a tablet. Ma'am, you're clearly fine. Sometimes family dynamics get complicated. My mother is upset because I stopped sending money, I said quietly. I just graduated medical school. I'm starting residency. I set some boundaries, and this is her response. The female officer looked up from her tablet. Have you been experiencing any thoughts of self-harm? The only thing harming me is my family's financial manipulation. The words came out sharper than I intended, but I was done pretending. I'm a doctor. I know the signs of mental health crises, and setting boundaries isn't one of them. Adams nodded slowly. We'll file this as no concern found. Your mother mentioned you changed your locks? I'm 25 years old. I'm allowed to secure my own apartment. Absolutely. He handed me a card. If she calls again, reference this report number. Sometimes when people start standing up for themselves, others panic. After they left, I sat on my couch, shaking with rage and humiliation. My mother had tried to have me declared mentally unstable because I'd refused to fund Sam's lifestyle. The manipulation had escalated from guilt trips to involving law enforcement. I was photographing the police report for my records when my phone buzzed with a credit monitoring alert. My stomach dropped as I read the notification. New account opened, Capital One Venture Card. I hadn't applied for any credit cards. With trembling fingers, I logged into my credit monitoring app. 2 new accounts glared back at me, both opened within the past week, Capital One and Chase, both showing my name but my parents' address in Littleton. The betrayal cut deeper than anything they'd done before. Identity theft. They'd stolen my identity to fund Sam's life after I'd cut off their access to my money. I called the Capital One fraud line immediately. The representative, Arthur Camacco, pulled up my account with professional efficiency. This account was opened in person at our Littleton branch, he said carefully. The application shows a co-signer, Loretta Hutchinson. Same last name. Is this a family member? My mother, I whispered, who stole my identity. I see. The account has a balance of $4,700. Recent charges include Brookstone Apartments, Ashley Furniture, and Mountain View Auto Sales. Sam's apartment complex. Sam's furniture. Sam's car down payment. I requested detailed statements for both cards, while Arthur flagged the accounts for fraud investigation. When the documents arrived in my email an hour later, the scope of their theft became clear. $8,400 charged across both cards. Sam's security deposit, first month's rent, a bedroom set, living room furniture, and a down payment on a used Honda Civic. They'd built him an entire life using my stolen credit, but they'd made a crucial mistake. Every transaction was documented, time-stamped, and tied to specific vendors. My medical training had taught me the importance of meticulous record-keeping, and now I applied those skills to building an airtight case. I screenshot every statement, saved every email, and created a detailed spreadsheet linking each charge to Sam's new apartment and possessions. Then I called the fraud departments of both banks and filed formal complaints. Ma'am, the Chase representative said, this level of documentation is exceptional. Most fraud victims don't have this much evidence. I'm a doctor, I replied. Documentation is what I do. Have you ever had family weaponize authorities against you? Let me know in the comments. You're not alone. As I uploaded the evidence to the fraud portal, I realized this wasn't just theft. It was a declaration of war. They'd escalated from manipulation to police involvement to identity theft, each step more desperate and destructive than the last. But they'd picked the wrong target. As I organized my evidence files, one thought crystallized with surgical precision. I was about to show them what a doctor with documentation skills could do. I chose Denny's on Colfax for our meeting. Public, well-lit with security cameras and witnesses. The kind of place where screaming would draw immediate attention and intervention. I arrived 30 minutes early, claimed a corner booth, and spread my evidence across the table like a prosecutor preparing for trial. They walked in together, my parents flanking Sam like bodyguards protecting their investment. Loretta wore her church dress, the one she saved for occasions when she needed to look respectable. My father trailed behind, eyes already apologetic. Sam looked confused, probably wondering why his free ride had suddenly hit turbulence. "Jennifer, honey," Loretta began before even sitting down, "we need to talk about this misunderstanding." I held up my phone, recording app clearly visible. "In Colorado, I only need one party's consent to record this conversation. That party is me." The color drained from her face. "You're recording us." "I'm documenting fraud." I slid the first credit card statement across the table. "Capital One Venture Card, opened in my name, using your address. $4,700 charged to Sam's apartment and furniture." Sam's eyes widened as he recognized the apartment complex letterhead. "Mom, you said Jennifer agreed to help." "She did agree," Loretta snapped, but her voice wavered. "Family helps family. This is just a misunderstanding about paperwork." I placed the second statement beside the first. Chase Freedom Card, $3,700. Sam's car, down payment, and insurance. Both cards opened with forged signatures. My father finally spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "Sweetheart, your mother just got carried away. We can fix this privately." "You're destroying this family over money." Loretta's voice rose, drawing stares from nearby tables. "No, Mom." My voice stayed level, clinical. "You destroyed it when you decided my identity was worth less than Sam's comfort." Sam stared at the statements, reality finally penetrating. "I didn't know the money came from—" "You never asked where the money came from," I interrupted. "That's the problem. You never asked because you didn't want to know." I stacked the papers neatly and slid them back into my folder. "The fraud reports are already filed. Both banks have opened investigations. The police have been notified." Loretta's mask finally slipped completely. "You ungrateful little—" "The recording is still running," I reminded her calmly. I stood, leaving a $20 bill on the table for my untouched coffee. "You have 30 days to contact the banks and arrange repayment. After that, it becomes a criminal matter." "Jennifer, please," my father pleaded. "We're family." I looked at him with something that might have been pity. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't call police for wellness checks when you set boundaries. Family doesn't miss your graduation and then demand money 2 days later. I walked toward the exit, then turned back one final time. "The evidence folder stays with you. Consider it a gift. You'll need it when the investigators call." The last thing I heard was Sam asking, "Mom, what did you do?" 2 weeks later, I was organizing my residency paperwork when my phone rang. Arthur Camacco from Capital One's fraud investigation unit. "Dr. Hutchinson, I wanted to give you a heads up. We're executing asset recovery at your brother's apartment today. There's a social gathering happening, so it might get visible." I thanked him and hung up, feeling a strange mix of vindication and sadness. Sam was throwing his housewarming party today, showing off the apartment and furniture my stolen identity had purchased. An hour later, my phone exploded with notifications. Videos posted by Sam's friends showed investigators arriving mid-party, official badges gleaming under the apartment complex's festive lights. The music stopped. Red Solo cups froze, halfway to lips. "Mr. Samuel Worthy." Arthur Kamako's voice carried clearly in the sudden silence. These purchases were made with credit fraudulently obtained using your sister's identity. Sam's face went white in the phone footage. But my parents said she agreed to help with everything. Sir, identity theft doesn't require the victim's permission. The video shook as whoever was filming tried to capture the investigators tagging furniture with evidence stickers. Sam's new couch, his bedroom set, even his coffee table, all marked for seizure. "This is insane," one of Sam's friends muttered off camera. "His own family?" Within hours, the story had legs. Local news picked it up first. Medical graduate's identity stolen by family members. The headline made my stomach clench, but the article was fair, focusing on the broader issue of family financial abuse. My phone buzzed with a text from Betty Gonzalez. "Saw the news. Are you okay? This is horrible, but also kind of badass." The social media fallout was swift and merciless. Screenshots of the news article flooded my parents' neighborhood Facebook groups. Their church friends shared concerned posts about that poor doctor girl. My mother's book club apparently had a field day dissecting the family dynamics. Sam's Instagram went dark after his friends started commenting on old posts. Dude, was this all bought with stolen money? His carefully curated lifestyle crumbled under scrutiny he'd never faced before. The legal consequences came down like dominoes. Both banks filed formal charges. The district attorney's office opened a case file. My parents faced $25,000 in restitution, plus legal fees that would drain their retirement savings. Sam lost the apartment within a month, moving back into his childhood bedroom at 23. The car was repossessed from the community college parking lot where he'd been showing it off to classmates. His friends' group chat, which someone leaked to social media, was brutal. His sister's a doctor and he's stealing from her? That's messed up. The most satisfying moment came when I received a formal apology letter from the apartment complex management. They'd unknowingly processed fraudulent applications and wanted to ensure I knew they were cooperating fully with investigators. I watched the evening news coverage from my quiet apartment, sipping tea and reviewing residency schedules. The reporter interviewed a financial crimes expert about family fraud, using my case as an example of how victims could fight back. The key, the expert said, is documentation and refusing to be silenced by family pressure. This young doctor did everything right. My parents' humiliation was complete when their pastor called for a private meeting about recent events affecting the family's standing in the community. Church gossip traveled faster than any news outlet. But the real victory wasn't their public shame. It was the peace in my apartment, the security of my new bank account, and the knowledge that I'd finally stopped funding my own invisibility. The restitution order arrived on official letterhead. $25,412 plus court costs and legal fees. My parents would be paying for their manipulation for years to come. Meanwhile, I started my residency with a clean credit report and a clear conscience, finally free to build a life they couldn't steal from. 6 months later, I stood in my new apartment near the hospital, hanging 3 frames on the wall: my medical diploma, my residency contract, and a framed news article titled, "Doctor's Fraud Case Inspires Others to Seek Help." The restitution payments arrived monthly like clockwork, $421 from my parents' garnished wages. I donated every cent to a financial abuse nonprofit, turning their theft into something meaningful. Christmas morning was quiet, peaceful, and mine. No guilt-laden phone calls, no last-minute emergencies, no walking on eggshells around family dynamics, just coffee, medical journals, and the kind of silence that heals instead of hurts. "You saved so many people by going public with your story," my colleague Kathleen Coleman said during our shift break. She'd become the kind of friend who celebrated my small victories, a successful surgery, a difficult diagnosis, even just making it through a 36-hour shift. "Sometimes the best way to heal is to help others avoid the same wounds," I replied, thinking of the letters I'd received from other medical students trapped in similar situations. My credit report showed a perfect score now. My savings account grew steadily without mysterious family emergencies draining it. Most importantly, my relationships were built on mutual respect instead of financial obligation. The family I'd chosen, Kathleen, my residency cohort, my mentor, Dr. Patricia Wells, loved me for who I was, not what I could provide. They showed up for my achievements, supported my boundaries, and never made me pay for their affection. If Jennifer's story inspired you to set boundaries with toxic family, drop your city below so we know how far this message is spreading. And remember, your peace is worth more than their approval. Sometimes the family you choose loves you better than the family you're born into.